I want to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission on September 18th, 2024. Jeff, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin.
Present.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Present.
Commissioner McCarty.
Present.
Commissioner Tucker.
Present.
And I do not believe Commissioner Cassidy is online.
Okay. All right, our first item of business is the discussion of the Vernal Pike Connector budget. Jeff, you want to lead this off?
We'll try to do a better job than I did last month. It was kind of still fresh. And Carly Woodruff from the auditor's office is also here, who helped with a lot of this, putting this together, as well as Lisa Ridge and Financial Solutions Group. So, packet, you should have a spreadsheet like this that kind of.
I presume this is the same, right?
Yes, it was also emailed out. So I'm just going to kind of walk through this top to bottom, and Carly will correct me every time I make a mistake. So the first thing we looked at.
Let's preface. This is an issue where we have discovered that we have a shortfall of cash availability by the end of the year to meet our obligations, and we are looking for a suitable way to close that deficit.
Correct.
Richard, pull your mic down. I heard you, but not that well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you want a little bit more history, I know we talked about this last month, but it has to do with the payment of a grant and then not having the funds available to reimburse that grant. I think historically it had been done wrong, where it was allowed to lay out a little longer, but that is being cleaned up. So the total contributions needed to make that grant fund bring it to zero is $2,489,771.97. So the top portion of this is kind of how do we look at the West Side TIF budget from now until we get settlement in June of next year. And so we start with a cash balance of $1,863,733.48, and that was a cash balance on the date this was created. So then we looked at, well, what's the next thing we're going to have to either expend or get financial or receive money for? And the next thing is we're going to have a STEM fall payment in 2024. We calculated that to be $146,149.39. RBB is coming next month, and that's typically when we will approve that claim, is at the meeting where they make their presentation. So we expect that. It says September. I talked with Dr. Sanders, and he prefers to go in October. So I think that is where that is. The anticipated fall settlement of $900,000. And then the following one is interlocal with city of $200,000. I'm going to kind of talk about those two together because I think they're really related. And they both happen at the same time. So when we go through the fall settlement process, the money in the TIF that is supposed to go to the TIF district will be distributed to the TIF district. Now in the spring, we do have one parcel that's kind of split between the county and the city because of zoning. Essentially, they combine some parcels. Mm-hmm. And so they get a portion of that and we get a portion of that. In the spring, what happened is the city got the entire portion from those two parcels. And so when we do the fall settlement, the auditor's office does the calculation based upon an interlocal agreement where we would receive kind of our share for those two parcels for the year. Last year, it was $203,000. So we're using $200,000 here as a conservative estimate. The person who does the settlement for the auditor's office also feels that $900,000 is a pretty conservative estimate. They actually anticipate more than that, but we don't want to anticipate more and compound this issue. So So then the next two lines show what we anticipate our 2015 and 2020 RDC bond payments to be. And I'll talk a little bit more about why those numbers are lower than what is the annual report when we get to the bottom of the sheet. But we expect that to be around $30,000 going out. And then we have unplanned budgeted costs. We looked at the cash balance in two lines, the Vernal Pike connector and the engineering and construction lines, and those totaled to that $88,108.31. Again, that was at the time of the preparation of this. You'll notice in the packet there are a couple claims that will come out of the West Side TIF funds. Those are incorporated in that $88,000 amount. So, and then on here, and I'm going to skip the blue line for a second. And then we have our spring STEM payment to the school, and that is simply the 270 minus what we're paying in the fall this year, because the spring payment is, that 270 total is based upon those two payments because they're reflected of the first and second half of this year. And then we have the fire truck payment in February of $249,495.28, and then the annual report costs. So now I'm going to get to kind of the blue section. If we made contributions from the West Side TIF Fund of $2,217,105.98, and the conservative estimates ended up being on the mark, we expended all the unplanned budgeted costs, that would leave us with a cash balance of $100,000, which is pretty low, but it's not in the red. And so in order to get that difference between that 2.2 million and the almost 2.5 million, Lisa Ridge found $272,665.99, the difference between those, in her local road and street fund, and that money would be eligible for this project. So she is not anticipating any kind of reimbursement of that expenditures. So I'm gonna really briefly go through why those two January bond payments are lower. It's because we have a debt reserve fund associated with it. Pursuant to our bonding documents, we are required to keep a certain amount in those two debt reserve funds. Currently, those two debt reserve funds are higher than the amount required. So we have to retain in the 4515, which is the 2015 RDC bond, we have to retain $285,410.75. We currently have $324,930.32, and which the difference would be $38,095.85. And then in the 4520, we currently have $572,091.11. This is the 2020 bond, and we are required to have $515,737.50. The difference between those would be that $45,587.24. So that's kind of how we put together essentially the next, 8 months of spending in this document to show what kind of cash there would be available in order to cover the problem.
Okay. I don't see the 1169 funds that we're going to be getting. They are not Okay, they're not added into your timeline, but then they're not subtracted out either, so, okay. All right, I see what you've done. And that's the payment we have to make to the state for the grant, which is the bridge over the railroad project.
That represents a payment we've already made to the state. It's to bring that grant fund to a zero balance.
Right. Right, I recall we did that several months ago. Yeah. All right. I think you have a plan. We just money for a while.
Well, and that is true. I think, but we are saving some money to deal with some unexpected costs that I think may or may not happen, and to what extent it will happen within our projects, within our, so, and, this is until June of next year, end of June next year, and then we'll get that settlement in, and then that should cover next year's fall costs. I mean, the good news is we're getting through our major projects. And so we always anticipated next year was going to be a slower year as far as projects and expending funds anyway. We didn't think we would be this close to the line, though.
Well, I want to thank Lisa for finding $272,000. And I thank Carly for finding the excess over what in those reserve funds. I know that there's a diminishing requirement in those reserve funds, so it's nice that we've got it available.
I actually think that what happens is when we get interest, when we don't spend things immediately when we receive it, I think that is the difference. So I don't think we can go back to this well again, is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
Well, are we all clear with Kreider? Is that all paid off, everything? Or are we still owe him money?
Well, for the West Side TIF purposes, I believe we are finished with that, right?
Is that what it is? That he was West Side TIF?
I think the North Park,
I'll
we're
lose
almost
track.
just beginning that, right? Because, I think next year he's going to build the Hunter Valley.
Different fund anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this looks like a reasonable plan. Do you need a motion from us to proceed with this plan? What do you need?
I think that would be extremely helpful. I think the auditor's office and the auditor would really like to know through a vote that this board is on board with this plan.
I move we accept this plan and go forward.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Do we want to articulate the numbers and so on?
I don't think so. It's the plan which is presented today at our meeting, essentially. So. All right. Jeff, you want to read the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
And still do not see Commissioner Cassidy online, so motion
Is he
is...
online?
I do not see him online. So motion is approved, 3-0.
Okay. All right. Thank you, folks, for working this out. We knew it was going to be a lean time. Didn't quite understand how lean at the time. We knew it. Maybe text you. Okay. The next item are minutes, which did not get produced because I think they were working on getting this straightened out. Next up are claims. For this month, we have claims of $20,261.03, which include a claim for inspection services on the Vernal Pike Connector project, a little bit left over from the legal work on the Vernal Pike project, a claim from Nature's Way on the Fullerton Pike TIF. We want to talk about that briefly. And then American Structure Point on the Fullerton Pike Phase 3 project. I guess I'll answer the first question. I noticed in the packet that there was a request to bill the insurance company for this Nature's Way bill. Has that been done?
I'd have to check with Lisa to see if.
Right. So I'm assuming we're paying the bill because the bill came, but that there is a possibility that we will get a reimbursement from an insurance company.
Correct.
For this amount of money.
If this is part of the, and it probably is part of that big storm project when the storm came through in late June.
This says accident.
Okay.
It says crash.
Yeah, it's May, so it wouldn't have been that.
This is, get there, I will read what it says. Repair damage to landscape and irrigation at Gordon Park roundabout due to crash on 5/25 of 24. So there's material, labor, cleanup, etc. And then there is also a email from Lisa to Ginger asking her to pay it out of the TIF, but it's a copy to Lynette to bill the insurance company from the crash. So there is something happening to try and get this recovered from an insurance company. Okay, we'll see if that occurs. Does anybody else have questions regarding the claims?
Didn't see anything.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second to approve the claims for September 18th for Terracon of $10,421.25, for Yasmin Stump Law Group of $466.50, for Nature's Way of $1,036.25, and American Structure Point for $8,337.03, for a total of $20,261.03. Jeff, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Start this around. Yours. Okay. We are on to staff comment. Do we have any staff comment online? Is Lisa there by any chance? I don't see her.
Is Lisa included here or not? Is she out?
I thought she was on
I
vacation.
couldn't tell.
Or out at the very least.
Okay. Jeff, any other staff comments?
I have two things. One is when we issued the bond for the Payne building that is Ivy Tech has been using for their nursing school, we entered into a lease
For
agreement.
what again? Say it again.
I always call it the Payne building because Payne building and then turning it into nursing school seemed like a very odd choice to me.
Yes.
But when we issued that, we issued them a 10-year lease, and at the termination of that lease, the lease indicates we will deed the property over to Ivy Tech. So that lease is expired. I'm working with Chancellor Coyne and he's working with their legal department in Indianapolis to get the documentations put together for that transfer. I think we're just waiting for a couple of items from them on how they want things they want in the sales disclosure. So look for that at the next meeting. It's in the lease. I don't think you have any discretion at all whether to approve it or not, but we certainly will bring that to the board before it gets signed. The other thing is a new code section has the Redevelopment Commission file a spending report for the next year with the county. prior to December 1st. And so on next month's agenda, I will probably have an agenda item with a draft of something based upon guidance from both the state and some of the attorney groups that I'm with. Kind of, they put out templates and things like that. And so I'll have that put together for you guys to look at and then make changes as you will. But I just kind of want to give you a heads up that we have an additional requirement now of doing that prior to December 1st. And the October meeting will also have the STEM conversation. The RBB will come and make their presentation.
Well, that, and RBB is going to be at the October meeting?
Correct.
All right. Do we have any comments from the people attending remotely? Any? All right, so we're back to commissioner comments. I do not have anything in particular other than to thank Jeff and Lisa and Carly for working out this situation with the TIF. I'm glad we can come to a resolution of that, which is going to be workable. Iris, do you have anything?
I don't have anything right now, as long as I can hear everybody well enough. I don't know, everything echoes, seems like.
Colin, anything?
Really, just to echo, thank you for putting all this together. It's remarkable, you know, all the funds that come together to make all this work. One question I have, and I bet I got probably a basic question, but when I look at, let's say, the McAllister property, the old ABB, when that was assessed, that was under construction. I think it was already started at that point. Yeah, well underway. So that will be reflected next year, correct? In terms of revenue collection?
It should. I'm trying to recall whether they had some kind of abatement on that or not. I don't recall that, but I'll have to double check. I don't recall it.
Yeah.
So I think it should be reflected fully next year.
Okay.
If not, it might be a phase in, but I don't think they asked for an abatement on that.
I think I think the
They started.
updating of the value will occur when they get their occupancy permit. So then it'll change and be a full functioning activity. But I
Okay.
think that's the thing that triggers it is the occupancy.
Well, I guess that's what I was getting at, was the occupancy. So as compared to, you know, underway, it's not fully redeveloped at that point. So, yeah.
It looks like they're about ready.
Yeah, they're very, very close. They've done a great job, and it's huge. But it's great to see, and I think that my overall point is that we've got these properties underway, you know, and over the next couple of years we're going to see more incremental activity, which is good because that 100,000, you know, the revenue is going to come in. But yeah, it's we already just approved 20,000 in claims, so we won't see that all the time. But it's just, you know, yeah. Thank you to everybody, you and Lisa and everybody, Carly.
Big help.
Big help, yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I know.
Okay, Brad, anything? Okay. Seeing we have run through everyone, I think we are ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.